I'm surprised to see you here.
Oh, who wouldn't want to see the Milton Man?
Isn't it incredible that such an artifact was found so close to Toronto?
We still have so much to learn about continental drift and the migratory route.
What nonsense! There is no missing link. We didn't descend from the apes. Read the Bible, you heathens.
Everyone has an interest in this in their own fashion.
I've always found that my faith and scientific curiosity can peacefully coexist.
Try telling them that. Oh, I've received a call from Miss Cherry. She's a reporter at the Sentinel.
I know Miss Cherry.
She's starting a series of profiles of interesting Torontonians and wants to feature me.
Oh.
Oh, I'm sure she'll ask you next.
It's not that. It's just that I've taken exception to some of Miss Cherry's reporting in the past.
I'll refuse her offer then.
Oh, no, you should do it. You should do it. It's just that if Miss Cherry isn't armed with the facts, she tends to make up her own.
So what happened after they tied you up?
I was facing the wall, but I heard them load the crates of whiskey onto the back of their motor wagon.
Can you give a description of the men?
They had bandanas covering their faces.
That's convenient.
I'm telling the truth.
You say they had a motor wagon. Did you get a good look at it?
Yeah. It was a Galloway. Had yellow spokes.
What kind of thieves can afford a motor wagon?
You think I'm making all this up? I'll show you. I'll find these men and teach them a lesson myself.
Sir, please leave that to us. We'll be all for now. Why'd you have to doubt him?
The whiskey could be in that man's garage.
We'll take a look. But until then, we'll accept that man's story.
In the case of the Heidelberg skull, which was of early Pleistocene date, the symphysial region of the jaw was essentially human in its markings and in its characteristics, whereas the features of the mandible on the Milton specimen are simian, which of course is of an earlier date. This hominid, one can only conclude that this is the best and only proof we have that the leap that we took from ape to man occurred right here in Canada. Thank you. Thank you. Now, I would be pleased to take some learned questions. Yes, the young man in front.
Are you a God-fearing man, Mr. Tink?
I don't want any trouble, please.
Oh, I agree. Eve gave the Lord a little trouble, and we were expelled from the Garden of Eden. Isn't that right, everybody?
I'm sure these honest people have questions I'd like to answer.
Then answer me this. Why should we believe in this abomination that the devil himself placed here to lead us astray?
I retrieved this from the ground. This is not the work of the devil. This is proof of man's evolution.
Poppycock. That is the only response fit in this mockery.
Detective William Murdoch, Toronto Constabulary. Mr. Wilde, please exit the stage.
Detective, I was wondering if the good Lord would put you in my path once again.
It seems he has seen fit to do so.
You haven't seen the last of me, you charlatan.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And thank you, Detective, for all your help.
You're most welcome. Would you mind if we took a closer look at the Milton Man?
Yes. I would like to see how the eye teeth compared to a specimen I saw in Luxembourg back in 19...
I'm sorry, gentlemen. The skull is with Mr. Hudson for safekeeping.
Oh, Mr. Leopold Hudson?
Do you know him?
Yes. He's an adventurer and a relic hunter. The last time we crossed paths, he was taking a lost treasure that we found back to Peru.
Sir. Sir, are you all right?
Where is it?
Where's what?
My skull. Someone stole my skull.
What brings you back to Toronto, Mr. Hudson?
Mr. Tinkton hired me to guard the Milton Man.
Now it's missing.
What's happened?
I was taking the skull back to the hotel right after the lecture. I turned down a passageway, then felt a blow on the back of my head. When I awoke, it was gone.
Mr. Hudson, you really should be out looking for it.
I know you want me out there chasing down that skull, but let me tell you, no one could help me find it quicker than Detective Murdoch.
It was likely a targeted theft, and in which case it could be on its way out of the country.
Well, there's every chance it could still be in Toronto.
Just find it. That skull is of the utmost importance to the entire human race.
Did you see your assailant?
No.
Who else knew you were carrying the artifact?
I bet you it was that man in my lecture who was shouting about it being the work of the devil.
Excuse me. Detective Murdoch? Yes? I see. I will, sir. Thank you. You'll have to excuse me, gentlemen. I'm needed at the Chief Constable's office.
Is it about the skull?
It is. I'll be in touch. Miss Cherry, I didn't expect to see you here.
Ah, we meet in person. I'm Inspector Albert Choi.
Inspector, have you given more thought to the top men of Toronto profile?
Miss Cherry, please conduct your business on your own time. Murdoch, Choi, what do you know about this missing skull?
I'd only just heard of the robbery when you telephoned.
You haven't seen this morning's newspaper. I've had the president of the university call me furious.
It's not their property.
Well, they want it to be. The whole thing is a bloody malarkey.
What do you mean, sir?
We're not descended from animals, are we? You don't all believe that rubbish, do you?
It's hard to argue with the evidence.
How did you learn about the theft so quickly, Miss Cherry?
A loyal reader. She found Mr. Leopold Hudson unconscious in the street. He was the one carrying the skull for Mr. Tinkton.
How lucky this witness came right to you.
Luck has nothing to do with it. The Sentinel is an excellent newspaper.
You've already talked to Preacher Watt.
He was all too happy to talk.
He says, thank the good Lord, the abomination was stolen. I only pray that it is destroyed and forgotten.
I wouldn't be surprised if he has something to do with that.
Where is Mr. Wilde, Miss Cherry?
Inspector Choi, you don't know me, but I have one rule. I don't give anything away without something in return.
Fine. You can interview me for your newspaper.
Excellent.
Mr. Kane, hello.
Sit down here. I'll make your arrest report.
Mr. Kane, what's the charge?
Theft. It was a part of the whiskey robbery.
I told you I had nothing to do with it.
Stay there and be quiet. When I found out that Mr. Kane has criminal friends, he just came into a lot of money. A few hours in the cells and he'll confess.
Well, I'll still look into the robbery. We should try to find the rest of them.
Don't waste your time. Whiskey's probably in America by now.
Detective Murdoch.
Mr. Wilde, I'm surprised to see you back here in Toronto.
Well, the good Lord called me back to the Great White North once again. And I must say the traveling life suits me just fine. Say, have you accepted Jesus into your heart?
I go to church every Sunday, if that's what you're asking.
Mr. Wilde, after you were escorted out of the lecture hall, did you leave the area?
I stayed near the doors.
I didn't see you.
The back doors. I wanted another word with Mr. Tinkton.
But did you see a man leave out those doors with the case carrying the skull?
I did. I must confess I wasn't kind. I told him that it was not too late to make his peace with God and rebuke that so-called missing link, but he just ignored me.
Did you follow him?
I did not. Found some other folks to conversate with.
Well, thank you for your time, Mr. Wilde.
These sermons of yours, keep them peaceful. Understand?
Of course, of course. I swear by all that is good and holy.
I struggle to believe a single word that comes out of that man's mouth.
If he did have the Milton Man skull, he would have made quite the spectacle of it by now.
Good point.
So what now, Detective?
Mr. Hudson is a man of far too many talents to be a mere guard. I'd like to know why Mr. Tinkton is really paying him.
He said it was a tectonic arrangement.
Mr. Hudson?
Detective Murdoch. Please, meet Daphne Fitzwilliam. Miss Fitzwilliam works in the geology department at the university.
Oh, pleasure. You must be very interested in the Milton man.
Of course. Mr. Hudson was asking if I had heard of anyone claiming to have the missing skull. I have not.
Miss Fitzwilliam, if you'll pardon me, I need to tear Mr. Hudson away for a word, police business.
Of course. I was just leaving. Goodbye, Leopold. I hope we will meet again soon.
I will make sure of it.
Your attention.
Oh, sorry. Whew, perhaps I should be spending more times in the halls of academia.
Perhaps.
How can I help?
Is there something you should be telling me about the Milton man?
Like what?
Well, you've been hired to guard the skull by Mr. Tinkton. But is there something more?
No flies on you. I don't think he wants it to be public knowledge, but Mr. Tinkton hired me to broker a quick sale of the skull.
Why keep that a secret?
Maybe he thinks selling it for money rather than donating it reflects poorly on him.
Why would Tinkton want to part with such a momentous find?
I don't know. I had contacted a few institutions I knew would want it, but Tinkton told me he wanted to sell to a private buyer.
And did you line one up?
A man named Mr. Lionel Dawson. A very private man with very deep pockets.
I'd like to have a word with this Mr. Dawson.
Absolutely.
You have an incredible collection, Mr. Dawson.
I don't usually let anyone into my home. Please, don't touch anything.
You've heard the Milton man was stolen?
Yes. Horrible. Do you know who took it?
That's what we're here to find out.
I was prepared to buy it. I certainly had no reason to steal it.
I would presume Mr. Tinkton was asking a fairly steep price for his artifact.
I would gladly pay any amount. More than Dr. Bethel would pay, I'd imagine.
He was interested.
This Dr. Bethel is also a private collector?
He buys on behalf of the Natural History Museum in New York City.
I wired him that Mr. Tinkton preferred a private buyer, but I never heard back.
Done. Workers in the cells.
Is he going to talk?
No, I told him it was in his best interest to take his lumps. I told him that a year in jail was smarter than mentioning you. And he agreed.
Smart man.
I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this.
I'd say as long as I keep telling you to. See you around.
I've never seen anything like Mr. Dawson's collection. His entire home was like a cabinet of curiosities.
A Wunderkammer.
Indeed.
Sprichst du Deutsch?
No.
Do you think he did steal the Milton man?
I'm not sure. He still seems keen to purchase it. I did learn of another potential buyer, however, a Dr. Bethel from the Natural History Museum.
In New York City?
Yes. I contacted his office, and apparently Dr. Bethel was due to arrive in Toronto 3 days ago to purchase the skull for the museum.
Maybe he didn't like the competition. Did his office know where he was staying?
The Trenton Arms Hotel.
You're taking me there right now, aren't you?
I am. The concierge says he hasn't seen Dr. Bethel in 3 days. No phone calls, no room service.
Did he do a moonlight flit?
He's paid up to the end of the week. Dr. Bethel, Toronto Constabulary, open up.
Dr. Bethel?
3 days ago, by a knife to the right carotid artery. Death would have been quick.
Any defensive wounds?
None. Just a stab wound.
So the assailant could have come from behind.
Possibly. Also, the cut was unusual. Blade would have been wide with an uneven edge.
Serrated knife?
No, the edges were too uneven and jagged. I would guess the blade was handmade.
So this is him then? The fellow who stole the Milton man?
No, sir. Dr. Bethel here was killed 3 days ago, before the skull was stolen.
Oh. Do you think his murder is connected to the theft?
I'm heading back to the hotel to continue searching his room.
Violet, what do you think about this missing link business?
It's interesting. I was just reading Othniel Marsh's article on the 50 million year evolution of the horse.
That's horses. I'm talking mankind. You don't believe that we descended from apes, do you?
Darwin's theory of evolution seems sound to me.
But everyone knows that mankind descended from Adam and Eve.
I have some books I can lend you on the subject. They provide some contrary theories.
Good day, Miss Hart.
Detective, can I ask you a question?
Of course.
Do you think I should provide my own portrait?
I beg your pardon?
For my profile in the Sentinel.
Oh. Well, I suppose that's up to you. Would you mind drawing that curtain for me?
What is that?
It's an ultraviolet light. It can detect blood spatter, footprints, that sort of thing.
How does it work?
Would you really like to know?
Of course.
Ultraviolet light can detect phosphors. Blood contains fluorescent molecules, and this light can show them to us. Like so.
Ingenious.
It's just basic science, really.
I only see blood in the area we found him.
No? What's this?
It looks like a shard of black glass. It's glowing.
That would be because of the phosphors on it from blood.
Obsidian.
Volcanic glass?
Large pieces of obsidian were knapped into incredibly sharp blades in the Neolithic period.
Well, that would be a very odd murder weapon.
But a fitting end for a paleontologist, wouldn't you say?
I met Tony Petrucci at the Starbright Club last night.
What are you doing investigating a fellow constable?
I spoke to some of Mr. Kane's friends. From all accounts, he's an honest man.
Are you saying Tucker arrested Mr. Kane to cover for Mr. Petrucci?
I'm gonna release Kane. Tell him it'll be wise to lay low for a while, visit some out-of-town relatives. And I'll keep watching Tucker.
I don't like where this is going.
Neither do I.
Dr. Bethel, murdered.
Did you know he was in Toronto?
I knew he was in contact with Mr. Hudson, and the museum was very interested. But Mr. Hudson had told me that he hadn't heard from Dr. Bethel.
He didn't notify you when he arrived?
No. And I wish he would. I would have loved to discuss this find with him. Dr. Bethel has had a towering reputation in this field.
And yet I understand you sought out a private buyer for the skull.
I don't know anything about selling artifacts. That's why I hired Mr. Hudson.
I see.
You don't think I had anything to do with this grisly business, do you? This is a great loss to paleontology. I've read several of Dr. Bethel's books.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Tinkton. Oh, would you happen to own any artifacts made of obsidian?
No. Why do you ask?
That might have to do with the case.
Well, it's not my field of expertise, but I do believe that Leopold Hudson had some fine specimens.
Why are you asking about obsidian?
Answer the question, Mr. Hudson.
I have had some in the past. I've sold some hand axes to collectors.
We believe Dr. Bethel was killed with a knapped obsidian axe.
I never even met the man in person. I didn't even know he was in Toronto. Why would I have killed him?
Perhaps Dr. Bethel was too insistent you sell to him and the argument got heated.
And I told you I didn't even know he was in Toronto.
I heard that. That doesn't mean I believe it. Detective, remind me, were there any witnesses to the theft of the skull?
No.
You could have taken the skull with the intention of selling it yourself.
I already told you I was hit on the head and the case was stolen.
Detective Murdoch! Arrest Mr. Hudson. Maybe with some time in the cells, he'll be more forthcoming.
You're allowing this? I thought we were friends.
We have no evidence linking Mr. Hudson to the crime.
Not yet. But, like he says, you two are friends.
With all due respect, sir, I am only considering the facts in this case.
The fact is, Mr. Hudson's dealings sometimes skirt the law. You told me yourself. He once stole evidence right out from under you.
He had his reasons. I don't believe Leopold Hudson is a killer.
What do you propose?
I will go to the university and see if they know of anyone who has an obsidian blade.
And I'll take a photograph of Mr. Hudson to the Trenton Arms Hotel and see if anyone saw him there.
I already spoke with the concierge. He saw no one.
I'll offer $1 to the bellboy. They see everything. Detective, I know you don't want me to be right.
Sir, I want to catch a killer. Excuse me, can you tell me where I might find the geology department?
Detective, lovely to see you again.
Miss Fitzwilliam, hello.
How is your investigation progressing? Any leads on the Milton Man skull?
I'm afraid our investigation has now grown to include murder.
Who was murdered?
Dr. Bethel of the Natural History Museum 3 days ago.
Oh, no.
Did you know him?
Just a little, professionally. Did his murder have anything to do with the missing skull?
I don't know. We believe he was killed with an obsidian axe. That's why I'm here, to find out who might have such a thing.
We have 3 specimens of obsidian tools in the department.
Oh, well, I'll need to bring them into the station house for testing.
Of course.
Do you know of anyone else who might have obsidian tools?
There are some tools in other collections outside of Toronto. A cache was found in British Columbia earlier this year, and I heard one went missing.
Is that right?
Mr. Hudson also told me he sold some examples lately.
That's the second person that's mentioned Mr. Hudson.
Oh, but he couldn't have anything to do with the murder.
You certain of that?
I know where he was 3 evenings ago. He was with me. Between you and I, we were together the entire night.
I see.
But if you say a word, I could lose my position here.
I see no reason to make your activities public knowledge.
Thank you. Come with me. The access are right this way.
Daphne told you that?
I understand you were trying to preserve a young lady's reputation, but that information could have saved you time in the cells.
It would have saved me time if you had just believed me.
I'm still looking for anyone who knew Dr. Bethel was in Toronto.
Good luck with your case. I still intend on finding that Milton Man skull for Mr. Tinkton. Goodbye, Detective.
You released Mr. Hudson.
He has an alibi for the night of the murder.
I've just been to the hotel. The night desk clerk told me that a man asked for Dr. Bethel's room number.
Did he give you a name?
No, but the clerk did remember the man. Full beard, with an ostentatious silk cravat.
Detective, it's quite late for a visit.
This isn't a social call.
Oh. Have you found the Milton Man?
I have not. I have been concentrating on the murder of Dr. Bethel. So perhaps you can tell me what you were doing at his hotel on the night of his death.
All right, yes. I went to the Trenton Arms. Dr. Bethel had sent me a telegram he was coming.
Why did he do that?
I had gone up against him in his museum before. I suppose he wanted me to know the game was afoot.
You led me to believe that you did not see Dr. Bethel.
But I didn't. I went to his hotel and knocked on his door. But there was no answer, so I left.
Are these obsidian?
Yes. I brought them back from New Guinea a few years ago. A rare find.
I'll need to take these to the station house with me.
You can't.
Either I take these with me now, or I arrest you for murder.
Tucker, can we talk?
What do you want? I'm off duty.
You don't want to hear what I have to say. How long have you been working for Tony Petrucci?
Shut your dirty mouth.
Tucker, I am giving you a chance to dig your way out of this.
Henry the Magnanimous.
You will tell the inspector what you've been up to, or I will.
You can't. Tony will kill me. He'll kill my wife.
The inspector can protect you and your wife. If you do the right thing.
You found the murder weapon.
I've found several obsidian examples with Miss Fitzwilliam and Mr. Dawson, but none of them appear to be the murder weapon. What are you doing here, Mr. Hudson?
Well, I've been thinking, Detective Murdoch. I'm going to give you the chance to apologize.
I was doing my job.
Yes. Well, I might have a lead. I was just with Mr. Tinkton, and he's very upset.
What about? Having his artifacts stolen?
He was accosted by that preacher outside our hotel.
Mr. Wilde.
He said Mr. Tinkton was hellbound, and he'd hasten the departure himself.
Did he harm Mr. Tinkton?
No, but he shouted he might want to come to the university this morning.
Why?
He would be smashing the Milton man.
The theories that these so-called evolutionists spew are an insult to reason and a shock to the heart. Now, I've read Mr. Darwin's book. It's all animal, 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 with never a thought of God or of religion. So, right here, right now, I am going to destroy that ape man for good.
Should we stop him?
I don't see a Milton man's skull anywhere, do you?
I give you the missing link. Watch as I give him a taste of the hammer of God. Get back, creature. There was never kinship between me and thee. I'm a man of God.
All right, that's enough. Mr. Wilde, a word, please.
Detective, I'm in the middle of a fight.
Now.
Take 5.
Mr. Wilde, did you have an argument with Mr. Tinkton earlier today?
I may have had words with him. He is spreading darkness and depravity.
Did you also have words with Dr. Bethel of the Natural History Museum? He and Tinkton are of the same mind.
Well, I don't know this Dr. Bethel.
He was murdered in his hotel room.
Well, I wouldn't know anything about that.
He was very interested in the Milton man's skull.
But I was hit and left for dead for.
Do you believe it's real, sir?
Yes, of course.
This certainly is a godless country in need of salvation. Why, just this morning, when I was spreading the news about this deception, a lady came up and kicked me right in the shin. She said that the missing link skull was real and that the world would see it soon enough.
What did this lady look like?
She was small, wire glasses, hair pulled back tight.
Yes?
Detective Murdoch, I'd like a word.
Just a minute.
Miss Fitzwilliam? What are you hiding behind your back? Step away from the desk. Now.
Daphne, how could you? You were the one who knocked me out.
I felt terrible about that. That's why I asked you out to dinner, to see if you were all right.
Thank you for your concern.
Why did you steal the skull?
I overheard Mr. Tinkton talking to Mr. Hudson about selling it to a private buyer. But this needs to be in a museum where it can be studied.
So you stole it to give to the university?
Eventually. I thought if I could have some time alone with it to really study it, I would be the expert. I'm sick of Cambrian fossils. I want to study the dawn of man.
I don't believe this.
I just didn't understand. Donating it to a museum would have put Mr. Tinkton into history books. It would likely be named after him. Euronymous Tinctoni, perhaps. But no, I suppose he only cared about money.
And what of Dr. Bethel? Did you want to keep the skull from him as well?
I didn't have anything to do with Dr. Bethel's death. I didn't know he was even in Toronto.
Murdoch, I have to come clean to you about something.
Right now?
When Miss Fitzwilliam told you I couldn't have killed Dr. Bethel as I was with her all night, she lied. We weren't together that night.
And you went along with her lie?
My alibi wasn't true. My innocence is. I know you trust that.
Miss Fitzwilliam, you will accompany me to the station house where you will be charged with assault, theft, and quite possibly murder.
What will happen to this?
It's coming with me as evidence.
So Miss Fitzwilliam stole the skull and lied to give herself an alibi the night that Dr. Bethel was killed.
Yes, but I've tested all 3 of the obsidian axes that I took from her department, and none of them had traces of blood on them, nor did they match the fragment that was found at the scene.
She must have had a 4th.
But why would she kill Dr. Bethel? She admired him.
Any comment on the paleontology murder?
Miss Cherry, I will be releasing a statement in due time.
Perhaps I should consider speaking now. I did see Detective Murdoch take Miss Fitzwilliam to the station a short time ago.
No comments. But if you did want to talk, we could arrange a time for my interview. For my profile in your newspaper.
Oh. I've decided to profile Leopold Hudson instead. That man should be in films. Tall, rugged, a globe-trotting adventurer.
I've trotted around the globe.
Now, back to the murder case.
I'm very busy, Miss Cherry. Goodbye. Good work on the Bethel murder, Murdoch. And you've recovered the Milton man.
Part of me wishes it would have stayed stolen.
This artifact will put Canada on the map.
We're on the bloody map. We don't need the help of this abomination. Half man, half ape. Honestly, I don't know what to make of it.
Are you taking it back to Mr. Tinkton, Murdoch?
Not quite yet. I need another word with Miss Fitzwilliam.
Would you like to hold it? It's not every day you can touch a part of man's evolution.
I'll leave you to it. I don't know where we came from or where we're going, but I'm quite content to live in the here and now. And that, Albert, is about to be the Tipsy Ferret. Good afternoon.
Why did you lie earlier about spending the night with Mr. Hudson?
I felt guilty, I suppose. I didn't know if my theft brought him under suspicion for Dr. Bethel's murder.
Well, that falsehood gave you an alibi, which you now no longer have.
That's not why I did it.
Where were you really the night that Dr. Bethel was murdered?
At home, working on my book, Trilobites of the Americas. Alone.
Miss Fitzwilliam, what do you think about this Milton man skull?
It's incredible. And to think he was found in a fairly high strata.
Contravening the geological superposition theory.
Exactly.
Other similar specimens have been found in Germany and in the South Himalayas, but did you ever think one would be found here in Ontario?
No. Frankly, I'm amazed that a link between Simidae and Hominidae was found in Canada.
Right. You'll be taken back to the cells now.
I've given you my finger marks. You'll see I was never in Dr. Bethel's room. And you can ask my colleagues. I could never hurt anyone.
You managed to hurt Mr. Hudson for the artifact. That will be all for now.
Keeping the Milton Man all to yourself?
I keep thinking about something Miss Fitzwilliams said. Why would Mr. Tinkton not want a museum to have this?
He wouldn't be the first to choose money over renown.
But to have the missing link hominid named after you, your name would live on forever.
Humility? What's this all about, then?
Perhaps there's another reason that Mr. Tinkton doesn't want a museum to have it.
Mind if I sit in?
Not at all.
This came for you.
Starbright Club, 8 o'clock. Be there.
Now, you've observed the mandible. Now compare it to that of a modern orangutan.
It looks very similar. Shouldn't it be?
Well, look at the molars. They've been shaved down to be even, as if with a metal file.
Hard to tell. We don't know the diet of this hominid.
If I swab a portion with alcohol, observe.
Looks like the bone now has a greenish tinge.
That tells me that this bone has been artificially aged with bichromate of potash.
Are you saying what I think you're saying?
I've also conducted a fluorine analysis, and it's definitive. This skull was never buried in the ground at all. Mr. Tinkton combined a modern human skull with the mandible of an orangutan.
The Milton Man is a fraud.
Mr. Tinkton lied. He did see Dr. Bethel when he came to Toronto. He was so confident in his fake artifact that he went directly to Dr. Bethel's room. Dr. Bethel likely grew suspicious. He's probably seen many fake artifacts in his time. So he threatened to expose Tinkton as a fraud.
It is.
Any possibility of renown and riches gone in an instant. And in a moment of fury,
he killed Dr. Bethel. That must be why he wanted to sell it so quickly to a private buyer.
Yes. He wouldn't have likely gotten the glory, but he would have been rich nonetheless. We have to find him.
Miss Cherry had another article in today's newspaper about the Milton Man. Here it is. Mr. Tinkton has gone back to the same site in Milton in the hopes of uncovering more of the missing link.
Mr. Hudson will know where the excavation site is. I'll take him.
And this?
Keep it for now. It is evidence after all.
Just not the kind we thought it was.
Leopold, detective. You showed up just in time. Look what I found. Huh? Now, I was lucky enough to find one Milton Man skull, but two! Incredible. Yes? Now, what of my first Milton Man? Have either of you found it?
Ah, yes, the missing link. You did take it to Dr. Bethel at his hotel prior to your lecture, didn't you?
No, I never saw him.
You had him examine it, and he discovered that it was a fake.
Yeah. Wait just a moment here.
That's why you asked me to sell it to the highest private bidder and fast.
That skull is not a fake.
It most undoubtedly is, as is this one. Tell me, did you spend any time in British Columbia earlier this year?
Yes, I was working with the Canadian Geological Survey on a Pleistocene-era excavation.
Where you unearthed a cache of obsidian tools. One of them has gone missing.
Empty your pockets, Tinkton.
No.
An obsidian hand axe. Do you carry it around for good luck?
Mr. Tinkton.
Yeah.
You're under arrest for the murder of Dr. Bethel.
That Miss Cherry is persistent. She can't believe I turned down her profile.
You did? Why?
Just try never to be guided by hubris. Besides, I'm Not that man anymore.
How do you mean?
Well, I've done it all, seen it all. Escaped caves, prisons, curses, women, the double crosses and dirty deals. I'm done with it. I think from now on, I'm gonna live a straightforward type of life. Settle down, get a job, maybe a dog.
In Toronto?
Well, the university's offered me a position sorting artifacts in the archaeology department.
Considering all you've done, wouldn't that be a tad dull?
There are benefits. Good day, gentlemen.
It is disappointing. Science took a real blow with Tinkton's chicanery.
Your path to knowledge does have some bumps along the way.
You're a real optimist, Detective.
The truth is out there, sir. We may just not see all of it in our lifetime.
Constable?
Do you have a moment, Inspector?
I appreciate your honesty.
Thank you, sir.
Your behavior is unpardonable. You should be charged.
Just protect my wife. Sir, she knows nothing about any of this.
I said you should be charged, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to fire you.
Have a moment.
Ladies? I said 8, not 10:30.
I got fired.
That's a shame.
I need a job.
Sorry, Tucker. You as useful as teeth on a bowl to me now.
Well, you gotta help me.
I don't got to do anything. Ladies.
Please.
Tucker, don't give these ladies a drink. Who knows? Maybe I need to have a good dog around.